Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking an absolutely breathtaking shift in human perspective, one that's hidden right inside verses 15 through 20 of Sūrat Noach. We're going to go on a literal cosmic zoom. We'll start by sweeping our lens across the massive, layered expanse of the universe, and then we're going to zoom all the way down to a microscopic seed buried in the dirt. It's a fascinating journey, and honestly, it's designed to completely reorient how we see ourselves. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so let's dive into this beautifully humbling concept. The text we're analyzing today frames the human being in a way we really aren't used to. I mean, we usually like to think of ourselves as the swaggering masters of the world, right? Completely self-made and independent. But this excerpt just strips all of that away. It argues that we're actually these earthy, botanical creatures. We are held right in the middle, suspended between a sky we had absolutely no hand in raising and a soil we didn't lay down.
And it demands our attention right off the bat. It opens with this classic summons to actually pay attention to the things we walk past every single day. Have you never looked? The caller essentially sweeps his arm out at the whole world, pulling our gaze upward to the cosmos and then crashing it right back down to the dirt beneath our feet. And why? Because when you really take in the sheer scale of this setup, it asks for just one simple, honest response: pure wonder.
Moving into section 1, a cosmic shift in scale. The text describes an incredibly specific vertical structure. Looking up, it points to 7 heavens, described as tibalkan. That means perfectly fitted, layer upon layer, without a single gap or flaw anywhere. Within those massive layers hang 2 great lights. But then, almost out of nowhere, the camera drops. It plummets all the way down to the soil, and the tone turns incredibly tender. It tells us that God grew you from the earth, literally like a plant. This beautifully illustrates the complete botanical cycle of a human life. First, you're sown from the earth, then you're returned to the ground in burial, and finally, you're drawn back out. It takes this incredibly intimidating concept like resurrection and brilliantly reframes it into the most ordinary, everyday observation of a seed sprouting. If you've ever watched a tiny green shoot push its way through the soil, well, you've already seen the argument in action.
Next up is section 2, outer and inner readings. Look at the incredible linguistic precision going on here. Classical commentators like Al-Razi totally marveled at the distinction between the 2 celestial lights mentioned. The sun is called a siraj, a blazing lamp that generates its very own heat and fire. But the moon is called a nur, a soft borrowed light. It reflects, it doesn't burn. But what's really fascinating is how the mystics, like Al-Qushayri, saw this. They read it as a map of the soul. They taught that a saint or a spiritually awake person has to be a moon. They must simply reflect a higher light. The moment a heart claims to generate its own light, to actually be the sun, it paradoxically enters darkness. And this dual reading continues with the word bisat, describing the earth as a carpet unrolled for us. Now, classical commentators were quick to point out that this doesn't mean the earth isn't a sphere. Rather, it's describing our lived human experience on it. It's so vast that it feels perfectly level and walkable. But again, the mystics took it inward. They saw these wide mountain passes as a reference to Saluk, the inward spiritual ways to God. They believed the spiritual paths are literally as numerous as the breaths of creatures. You aren't planted just to stay put, right? You were given roads to travel.
That brings us to section 3, the hidden arithmetic. Let's look at the number 9. In previous passages analyzed by the author, 9 represented the sealed terminus of the grave, the absolute end of the line. But suddenly, right here at the tenderest turn of the text, it transforms. The number 9 lands precisely on the words for "he grew you" and "he draws you out." The math literally shifts gears. The number of the grave actually becomes the number of the seedbed. The same 9 that buried is now the 9 that raises. How cool is that? Next, we look at the number 4. This becomes the number of the furnished world built specifically for you. It magically binds together 4 core words: the heavens overhead, the lamp hung in the sky, the green life grown below, and the roads you travel. It's the entire habitable arrangement, counted out on a single hand. Then there's the number 8. Previously in this series, 8 was associated with the burning fire of punishment. But here, that fire number rises into the sky to represent the word for the sun. And beautifully, it also shares its numerical value with the verb to see. I mean, The sun's fire is exactly what makes sight possible. The fire that once represented punishment is now put to a really good, necessary use, lighting up the entire world. Finally, the number 6 emerges as the number of circulation. It mathematically binds the 7 high heavens and the 1 earth below, perfectly framing the entire vertical cosmos as a single, flowing system. The rain going down, the plants coming up, and matter just effortlessly cycling between them.
All right, Section 4, Modern Scientific Parallels. Notice how astonishingly well this ancient vocabulary maps onto secular science. The opening command to simply look at the heavens? Well, modern psychology calls that the overview effect, that ego-softening awe that astronauts experience when they view the Earth from space. And the description of the sun as a lamp? Astronomy confirms it is literally a self-luminous nuclear furnace, converting hydrogen to helium, while the moon generates absolutely nothing. And the Earth spread out for travel? Genetic and archaeological evidence confirms that our species was uniquely built to rapidly travel and expand out of Africa, filling this vast Earth. We are literally the animal that took the roads.
Furthermore, the claim about being grown from the earth isn't just a poetic metaphor reaching for a truth, it's literal biochemistry. Get this, global vegetation fixes 100 billion tons of carbon every single year. Every single atom in your body that isn't water, it arrived there by passing through a plant. You are, quite literally, soil that took a detour through a field. And your physical return to the earth relies on a vast microbial machinery that breaks down and endlessly recirculates your atoms into new living things. Literally nothing is lost.
Now for our final section, Section 5, A Quiet Reflection. So, having scaled the heavens and drilled down to our biochemical roots, let's turn the lens inward for a moment. Ask yourself, where in your life might you be taking credit for a light, a talent, or even a bit of luck that you actually did not generate yourself? Have you been walking around claiming to be a sun when you're really just meant to be a good moon, reflecting a light you didn't create? Think about your own development for a second. Since this text insists you were cultivated like a plant and not assembled like a machine, consider where you might need to trade the exhausting machinery of human effort for the quiet, slow patience of a gardener. Growth simply cannot be rushed by sheer force of will, you know? The earth was specifically unrolled and spread out as a road for you to walk. So are you actively exploring the wide paths you were given? Or have you pitched a tent on one small, safe square of the carpet, completely forgetting that the world was quite literally made for wayfaring? To close this explainer, consider this small practice inspired by the text. Step outside tonight. Look up at the vast layered sky for just 1 minute. Notice the moon. Notice the ground under your feet. And ask yourself, does the universe feel less like a ceiling you can safely ignore and more like a magnificent fact you are incredibly privileged to live beneath?